everyone, welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's sit and sew, we are going to be making a leather boxy bag. So if you're new to the sit and sew, this is where I sit at my industrial sewing machine. It is a Juki 1541S. It is a monster. Its name is Beasty. And we sew something that I would find it not possible or just far too challenging to sew at a normal sewing machine. So my everyday sewing machine I use is a Bernina 770QE. I do really enjoy that machine, but it can be a little bit challenging to sew things like thick leather on that machine. You can do a lot though, but it's easier to do it on this machine. So we're going to make a boxy bag. Boxy bags are very popular on my channel. We do a little two-toned boxy bag. I should probably have one here to show you. I don't because we're selling them right now. But in today's boxy bag, we will be using leather for the base. So I have this super fun, shiny green leather. This is leather, it's not vinyl. I do not remember where I purchased this. I purchased this years and years ago. So unfortunately, I don't have a link for it. And I was going to do leather for the top strips. So as you can see, this boxy bag, it kind of folds like that. This is the bottom, and then we do top strips. I was going to use leather for that, but I actually don't have any other leather that is big enough for those strips. I have a lot of very small scraps of leather. So instead, I'm going to be using some waxed canvas. So I thought that would be an interesting combo. Let's see how the waxed canvas and the leather do together on the industrial machine. And then for the lining, I will be using waterproof canvas, just like this. Now, in the original tutorial, I used a metal zipper, and since filming that tutorial, I've really kind of stopped using metal zippers, just because metal zippers can be dangerous if you sew over them. They can be a little bit more finicky. And honestly, there's just other options. Like this is a Sally Tomato zipper. It looks metal. I mean, the zipper teeth look gold, right? But it's plastic. I can sew over it no problem. So because of that, I'm actually tweaking the way I sew the edges in just a little bit. So if you're interested in that, pay attention. I will show you how I do that. This is not a full tutorial for the boxy bag. I already have that on the channel. If you're interested in it, I will have it linked down in the description of this video. This is not a tutorial at all. This is just like a fun sit and sew, and I make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. So if you want to see the other videos where I made all the mistakes, I will have those linked down below. There'll be a playlist somewhere around here to show those off to you. So if you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, anything at all, please leave them down in the comment section. I will have a link for my machine. I did purchase this from Gigi over at Juki Junkies. I love it, I love it, I love it. I'm still scared of it though. So as always, if any of you guys have any tips or advice, leave them in the comment section. I read all of them. I've learned so much about my own machine from your comments. All right, to get started, I am using Graz Beckert size 21 needles today. This is what it looks like. I know a lot of you guys said that you use a size 19 needle on your industrial sewing machines. And then, like I said, it was suggested when I originally purchased it, it came with a 23 needle already installed on it. So I found 21's actually pretty good. I probably could go down to a 19, but I'm gonna go with what I got. And then the thread I'm using today is a Tex 45 thread. It's already up there on the spool, so you can imagine it's a big piece of thread. The thread for industrial machines is much thicker. Here, I can show you this one. So here is a thread for industrial machines. The thread is very thick. I don't think you can even see it because of the color, but it's very, very thick thread. I haven't been able to use it on my domestic machines. I know some people say that they do. They use it on their Juki TL 2010Q. I didn't find that doable for my skill set, but it might work for yours. So the first thing we have to do with the boxy bag is we attach the top pieces to the bottom. So that's just right sides together along the long edges. We'll see if we can get through this without as many challenges. This should be a pretty quick one. I've been making a lot of these. I know how to do it. I don't really have to read the instructions. But as if you've been here before, you know I make all the mistakes, so we'll see how this goes. All right, so before we get started, let's just test out the machine, make sure it's working right by going over a scrap piece of leather. I always hold my thread. I know it's hard to see because this thing is covered in threads, but I always hold my thread when I'm starting out. The problem I'm having right now is that I have to push my knee against this little lever underneath the machine so that I can raise and lower the presser foot, but that's also exactly where I need the camera so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So I might be hitting you. I'm sorry. Oh, it sucked me down. All right, so I'm gonna lift it up and then move my needle. If you have an industrial machine and you pull on your thread for the top thread, so the top thread going through the needle, is it like, do you have to pull pretty hard? Because I found for mine, I have to pull very hard, like much harder than on a regular machine. It's very tight. Now, I know that could be a tension issue, but my tension looks fine when I put this all together. It actually almost looks like the bobbin thread tension is even tighter. So that's always something I wondered is should it be pretty challenging to pull that top thread? Let me know if you have one. Let me know. All right, so now we're just gonna sew the top panel to the bottom panel. So I'm using a stitch length of 4 to sew these together for construction, and then I'll use a stitch length of like 5.5, 6 for top stitching. I don't know. I am going to try back stitching. Let's see how that works. I'm just piercing holes here. I'm not actually sewing anything. This is how it begins. Every time, this is how it begins. So is my bobbin out? I wonder if my bobbin's out. So you can see that the presser foot leaves this mark on the wax canvas, which is going to be a bit of a nuisance when we top stitch. I wonder if that will just come out. I guess we'll find out. But you can see over here, it started stitching and then it stopped probably because my bobbin's out. Should have checked that before I started filming. I'm new here. Yep. Bobbin is totally out, which means we get to wind a bobbin. Fantastic. This is very oily too. I guess that's good. It's always nice to be oiled, right? Alrighty, let's try to wind a bobbin, guys. I will have a video down in the description of this video or linked up right over here that I use every time I'm threading my machine or doing anything to my machine. It's a great video. It's actually the video that Gigi's husband showed me whenever he was here setting up the machine on how to thread it. I really like it. Put this in here. I've already threaded my bobbin, so if you're looking at this other camera and you're like, you can't just stick it in there. I didn't. I threaded it. Did I thread this part correctly? I don't know. Yes, I did. All right. And he likes to put like a little clippy clip on here. The thing that makes me nervous about this machine is that when you're winding the bobbin, you have to push down on the presser foot and the needle goes up and down while you're winding the bobbin. So usually that also means it's good to make the machine go a little bit faster, which I don't really like because I have the machine set on the slowest setting and it still goes too fast for me. So it makes me so nervous. That needle makes me nervous. So let's try to wind this bobbin, I guess. And I think I can take this off now. Who sews this fast? This is on like the second to lowest speed setting. Who sews this fast? Like, what? How would you go faster? I almost want to go up to the highest speed setting and just let it go and just see. I worry that the needle's gonna break and then it's going so fast that the needle's gonna like ricochet off of something and then, you know, it's a realistic fear. All right, it's getting pretty full. We're good now. Yay, we did it. I've got my bobbin all wound up, ready to go. Okay, and before we sew, let's grab our little test piece here and try it again. I'll tell you what, every time I change this bobbin out, I get problems because I do it wrong. Ooh, please work. I think it looks good. Yep, I think we look good. You guys look at this little raggedy thing here. Okay, well, we're about 20 minutes into filming and we are just about to start making a stitch. So that's normal. All right, let's just do it. Let's just do it. I'm gonna go slowly if I can. Nope, can't. Say this is like driving a car. You know, I mean, you know, if you push down a little bit on the gas pedal, you go a little slow. If you push down more, you go fast. If you push down all the way, you go too fast. You know, it's just like that. Like, that's just like this machine. Like, it feels like I'm driving a car right now. And I'll be honest, I don't drive a whole lot. My husband's actually the one who drives everywhere because driving stresses me out. So, makes sense. Okay, we got one seam stitched. Look at this. Look at us. Professionals. We're amazing. We're doing it. We're doing it, Dad. We're doing it. All right. So there we go. One done. Let's go quickly do the other one with less dramatics. Yeah, definitely driving a car. So you know when you're first learning how to drive a car, or you're teaching somebody how to drive a car, and it's like, because they don't quite understand how to like read the car and push down so that you just don't like go real fast and then stop real fast. That's me right now. Don't get in this car with me right now. It's gonna give you whiplash. If you watched my last video where we made the Bonnie bucket bag out of leather, we ran into a lot of issues. I will tell you though, my mom uses that bag every single day. She absolutely adores it. All right, so as you can see, the presser foot leaves marks on that wax canvas, which means that's probably what's gonna happen when we top stitch as well. We're just gonna hope that it wears off after a while. Wax canvas is like that. If you take wax canvas, watch, if you take wax canvas and you kind of crease it like that, see, hello, and you open it back up, it leaves a mark. That's like the beauty of wax canvas, is that it ages really nicely. It's like a stinky cheese or a fine wine. It ages nicely and it shows like wear. It shows wear, not tear, but it shows wear really well. Which is what we like about it. But that also means that presser feet, even on a regular machine, tend to show their marks, but you can usually rub it out. So we'll give it a try. I'm gonna up my stitch length to a 5.5 millimeter. And we're going to try to top stitch. I'm going to slow down my speed real quick. I wonder if did I just turn it off? Let's see. Where's the scrap? Always go with the scrap. No, we're good. Okay, let's give a top stitch. So I'm just going to top stitch right along the top edge, the wax canvas edge, at about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, or whatever I can get this machine to do. I'm still figuring out all of the seam allowances. So it's just whatever we get is what we get. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. We all know it, right? So that's the only top stitching, and it does show the presser feet, you know, indentation, but let's wait until the bag's done and see what it looks like. Let's see if it's still there when the bag's done. So I'll show you. See, it has like a little strip, goes along the bottom, you see that? So we'll see. Let's wait. Let's just wait and see, okay? Let's just wait and see. Let's do the other side as well. All right, there we go. All good. So now we're going to sew the zipper on, and we're going to sew the lining on. I should probably put a bag tag on this, huh? Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, I'll put a bag tag on this. So since my wax canvas is a little bit on the thinner side, I'm actually gonna use a piece of foam to help stabilize it. So just like we've done before, I'm gonna use a metal bag tag for this. So I like to just fold the top edge of the side I'm going to be putting the bag tag on, and I fold it in half so I can find that midpoint, and then I just give it a little tiny clippity clip, and that gives me my midpoint mark. See, I know you guys are very interested in this midpoint mark, and then from that I can just kind of eyeball where I want this to go. Actually, you know what, with wax canvas I can probably just pinch the whole thing in half, huh? Line it up, and then just pinch right at the bottom here. That will mark the midpoint for me. Exciting. So I like my bag tag to go right above the seam because this boxy bag is going to be folding a lot, and if you get it too high up, it's going to be folded onto the top of the bag, and it's going to look a little wonky. So you can see that's what it looks like. Very cute. And then I'm just going to grab a little piece of foam, and I will slice my prong marks on this as well. This is pretty thick foam, actually. I don't know. Maybe Decoville Light would have been better. We've already committed ourselves to this, so this is what we're doing. And I'm not using any interfacing on this. I'm not using any fusible fleece. I'm not using any woven interfacing. Obviously no woven interfacing since I'm using waterproof canvas and leather. So none of that, but this top piece here does need to be protected, so that's good. So when this ends up folding up, we should have this nice and centered on the bag. All right, that's good. Let's move on. So since this is the front of my bag, I'm going to arrange my zipper based on that. So I always like the zipper to close. When the zipper's closed, it should be going towards the left of the front of your bag. If you're left-handed, right-handed, I don't know if it really matters. But now that I'm using the zipper tape, I actually cut my zipper longer than the panel. So I just eyeball it, or you could just cut it 15 inches long. And what I'll do is I will clip this right sides together. So right side of zipper is facing the right side of that top panel. Okay, now oftentimes I do like to baste the zipper on at like 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, but I've been making a lot of these lately, so I feel like I might be okay. So I'm just going to clip that on, and then I'm going to take a lining slip of waterproof canvas, and I'm going to take my waterproof canvas and lay it right sides together against the back of my zipper, making sure I line it up with the boxy bag. All right, now I'm gonna sew along this edge, anywhere between 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch, whatever's easiest. And I'm gonna lower my stitch length back down to a 4. And make sure you move your zipper pull as you're sewing. You don't want to sew over a zipper pull or get everything all out of whack. So my neighbor has decided this is a good time to get the mulching machine out and tear down some trees, apparently. So if you hear a loud humming in the background, I do apologize. I do my best, but here in Florida. So when I'm looking at this, I see that the seam over here on the edge is smaller than the rest of the seam. So now I can go back over that, but actually about 5/8 of an inch of this is gonna get eaten up anyway, so I think I'll be okay. I don't think I need to worry about that right now. So now I'm going to open up my exterior and lining and just make sure everything is straight. I like to add clips on the sides to hold it all together. Push down right next to the zipper. I probably could have done a bigger seam allowance around that zipper. I wonder if I want to go over it again. I don't know. What do you think? So this is what it looks like right now, and I bet I can get closer to those zipper teeth. I just don't know if I really feel like I need to. I think I'm okay, actually. Once you start trying to tweak things that are okay, you get you get a mess. So I'm gonna up my stitch length again to a 5.5 millimeter, and I'm going to top stitch along the zipper. All right, so here we go. Once again, we do still have that line going down, but I think we're gonna be okay. I think it's gonna rub off. So now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So this time we're going to take the other top and we're gonna fold it up. So now you have like the wrong side of your leather showing. And the trick here is just to make sure you line it up. You don't wanna line up this like this, right? You wanna line it up so that everything is squared up. All right, so now I have the lining that I already attached facing right side up, and then I have the back of my zipper pull. I'm just going to grab my other lining piece and lay it right sides together and just line it up with the top edges. Again, there's a whole tutorial going over this. I can't help myself. I have to kind of explain what I'm doing while I'm doing this. This is what I do. All right, now let's just sew along this edge as well. So I feel like this seam allowance is too small. Let's take a look at it. Let's figure out what the seam allowance is. I mean, that is less than 1/4 inch. So we do need to up it. Let's up it. Let's do it. I'm gonna go over a second time and make this seam allowance just a little bit bigger. Looks like I started with a bigger one, but then I lost my guts. You know what, we're just gonna let it go. I did it and I ended up just going over the exact same stitches. We're just gonna let that go. Finished is better than perfect, always. All right, so now this one's always a little tricky because we got to open up all of this. And I am going to, I like to just open up one end, so the end that opens normally, but then I'm gonna put a clip on the other end because I don't want my zipper to fall off. So now I've got to finagle this so I can top stitch it. So I'm just gonna pull it wrong sides together and flatten it out and then add a clip. This part's always a little tricky to get everything just right because you can't see what you're doing. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. It'll all be fine. All right, going back up to 5.5 millimeter. I should have made my zipper even longer. The longer your zipper is here, if you're using a plastic zipper, the longer it is, the easier this is because you can unzip the zipper quite a bit to get towards the end without having to worry about your zipper pull flying off. My zipper pulls do come off sometimes. It's fine. Also, remember that the edges of this are going to be eaten into about 5/8 of an inch. So if the top stitching isn't great right on the edge, it's gonna be gone anyways, so it doesn't need to be. Alrighty, I always like to check and make sure the lining got caught. As you can see, sometimes the lining doesn't, or it just barely gets caught on the back. It's a little challenging. It's fine. This isn't even a thread that I did. This is a thread for my shirt. What the heck? Alright, so now I close my zipper halfway, always halfway. And we're going to take our lining panels and we're going to fold them right sides together. So now this is kind of what it looks like. You got your exterior little bubble down here, and then you've got your lining panels. You still have these 2 raw edges on your lining panels. So we just line them up perfectly, place them wrong sides together. And we're going to leave, how much do we leave? I'll show you guys. These are my notes for the Boxy bag. You see? This is what I have to look at. So we leave, how much do I say to leave? I'm not doing the mesh pockets on this one. I just didn't feel like it. 5-inch opening. We're gonna leave about a 5-inch opening. Definitely wanna leave that big, or maybe, well, you wanna leave that big with thicker material like this. All right, so I have my opening marked with these little silver marking pens here, and I'm going to sew along this edge about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I think. Make sure you backstitch here at the beginning. And then once you get to your mark, stop and backstitch there as well. just lift up our foot. Gotta jiggle the wheel around a little bit so that we can get the thread to come out. And then push it back down. Make sure you backstitch at the other mark as well. And then you backstitch also at the end here. So the problem I seem to have the most right now is keeping my stitch straight. And partly I think it's because of the lighting. Shooting the video, I do have like this little light here, but if I mess with the light so that I can see everything really, really well, then the camera doesn't. The camera looks very dark. But if I move the light around so that it's a little bit darker for me, then the camera actually picks up the light better. But we'll try. We'll see this. We've got some pretty big shadows now with this light, but we'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot because I need to be able to see what I'm doing. Alrighty, so for my zipper tabs, I'm just using 2 pieces of leather. They're not folded. They're just 1 inch wide by 3.5 inches long. So we're just gonna fold our zipper tabs like that. And then the zipper tab always goes on the side of the zipper, on the right side of the zipper, so where the exterior is. Your zipper tab's not going to do you any good if it's in your lining. So I'm just going to attach that in there with some clips. So here's a change I've been making with using plastic zippers. In the tutorial you saw we would sew along the zipper in the exterior with 1 seam allowance, and then we'd pull that flap back and then we'd sew along the lining. That was to avoid sewing over any metal. We don't need to do that in this case. What we're going to do in this case is we're actually just going to clip. So you can see I clipped my tab to my zipper, and it's also clipped to the lining and the exterior. And I'm taking all of it. So I'm going to pull all of it so that the seam going down the lining is lined up perfectly with my zipper tape. And I'm just going to add that to my clips that I already have here that's holding my little zipper tab down. And then I'm going to pull along the edges of my exterior. And I'm just trying to get the seams lined up well. Now you can always fold this as well and find that midpoint along the bottom of your, for me, the leather or whatever your bottom piece is. You can just pinch that, mark that midpoint, and then line up that marked midpoint with your zipper teeth. And that way you have everything centered really well. All right, and then I'm gonna add some clips along the edge here, but don't get distracted by that. That's just to hold things out of the way. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sew 2 inches over my zipper. So 2 inches total. So I'm gonna start outside of my zipper, sew over the zipper onto the other side, about 2 inches long. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to sew over my zipper tape, but I'm also sewing through my exterior and my lining, not along this whole edge, only right over the zipper tape. So like I said, it's about 2 inches. We ideally want all of the layers to be sewn together right here at the zipper, but we don't want them sewn together outside over here. So that's what I'm doing. Let's try it. And we're gonna sew this at a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Since I'm not quite sure where that is on my machine, I'm actually just going to use my ruler and I'm going to mark where that is. All right, so now I have that line marked, and what I can also do when I do this is I can take my little seam gauge over here and kind of line that up with the edge of my fabric so I know that that's where I'm trying to be. Well, we'll see how that works. So now make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end of this. Always make sure your zipper pull is out of the way. It should be in the middle. Oh dear, where are you going? Where are you guys going? We're not done yet. Alrighty, looks like you did good. It went through all those layers really well. So that's one side done. So now we're gonna repeat that with the other side. So again, grab another one of your little tabs and we're gonna add that to the right side of the zipper. All right, so I got it all done. So once again, we're gonna do a 5/8 inch seam allowance, just about 2 inches, just a little bit on each side of that zipper tape just to hold all those layers together really nicely. Okay, so now we have the zipper part figured out. Now my zipper is kind of separated over here. I don't know how I feel about that. see what that looks like. I'll show you when I sewed this, my zipper got a little separated right there, so that might be a bit of a pain in the end. I wonder if I want to fix that actually. I think I'm going to fix that because I'm not sure if that's going to kind of prevent the zipper from closing all the way like I want it to. This is why it's good if you sew the opening end of your zipper shut before you do this step. Okay, so I am going to go over this a second time. Okay, we're gonna say that's good. So now what we have to do is just sew the lining and the exteriors. So what we do is we peel back one layer. So like I'll peel back the exterior and I'll just sew along this lining edge right here at 5/8 inch seam allowance until I get to those stitches that I made connecting all the panels together. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side with the lining, and then I'll flip it over and do the exact same thing with the exterior. So it is quite a bit of sewing, but that's how I found I can get the lining to be seamless and everything still stays together pretty easily. All right, so you can see I have all of the exterior sewn. So now I'm just gonna repeat that for the lining. All right, there we go. We have one full edge done. So we're just gonna repeat that with the other side. This is a pretty quick and easy process once you get into the groove of it. Really, guys. Let's just put some music on and sew, right? This is what happens if you don't hold your thread. It bird's nest like that, which I found on almost every machine. Almost every machine. Most machines will do that. If you don't hold the thread one way or another when you're starting to sew, it'll bird's nest on the back, which is ugly, but also it can jam up your machine, which is no good. You never want that. All right, so now I have both edges completely sewn. So now all I'm gonna do is go down these edges and trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 inch. Okay, so almost done. Now we just have to box the corners. So I like to box them at 1 3/4 inch. I measure down from the folded edge to the stitches when I do that, and I just make little squares. And I do this on the exterior and lining separately. So I create 8 squares total. All right, you can see I have all of my boxes marked on my lining and my leather. So now, one thing you might want to do before we cut these out, and was something I was doing when I was making the bags for my shop, especially on the exterior where the material is a little bit thicker, right here at that line where we marked our box that covers that stitch right there, I go back over that and just back stitch it because we're going to be pulling at that and I don't want it to come undone. So it's just, you don't have to go over the entire seam again, just over those marked lines on your exterior, if needed. So I would say like try it once without doing that, and if you don't have a problem then don't worry about it. But I found that my material was pulling apart right there whenever I was boxing my corners. So if I just took the extra time to add some extra stitches to that, you could also just mark 1 3/4 inch up from the edge before you sew this, and then when you get there just backstitch. So again, I'm only going through the exterior right here. I'm not going through the lining. And I'm just going over that one spot where my line is. Just so I don't have to fight with this when I'm pulling it apart. They're still trimming out there. I'm pretty sure it's not her, but she's got people coming over. I'm pretty sure they're cutting down giant palm trees and shredding them. I don't know why. It might be for fun. Okay, so now I can cut out my boxes. So just those marked lines that I made, I'm just gonna cut them out one at a time. So 4 on the exterior, 4 on the lining. So they have a giant truck now that they're putting between our houses. I'm a little nervous our houses are not quite big enough. I gotta go look at this. Hold on. Okay. I have no idea what's going on outside. I should go outside and ask them, but This is more fun. Okay, anyways, back to the bag. So now I have all of my corners cut out, and then all we do is we just pull on those corners and pull the seams. For the exterior, we pull the seams so that they match up. And by doing that, by matching up these two seams, that gives it a nice like wraparound look. So it looks like one piece of fabric on top, one piece of fabric on the bottom. If you sewed quite a bit of a ways over your zipper over here, this could be a little bit challenging. You might have to get the seam ripper out because you can see I just don't have a whole lot of room to work with right here to pull these apart. So I might have to get my seam ripper out and then just kind of seam rip right there because I need enough space to pull these. I'm gonna push the seams the other way, but I need enough space to pull these so that I can flatten out that edge and sew it. So see how I seam ripped that much out. And what I'm gonna do before I get going is I'm just gonna go back to my sewing machine and just backstitch over the area where I don't want it to rip anymore. Okay, so now I can much easier pull these apart and get this straightened out. And you might also want to unzip your zipper all the way. That can help. And this is a little bit trickier to do with leather than it is with vinyl or quilt cotton. It's a little bit trickier to get that to fold the way I want it to. I think we'll be okay. All right, and then I'm gonna sew along this edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so there's one corner. It was no problem to sew at all, so that's great. So I'm just gonna continue doing this for the other 7 corners? Yeah, the other 7 boxed edges. One thing is that thread, man, once you start sewing, the needle pulls so hard on the thread that it pulls it out of my hand a lot. So you have to like hold on to it pretty tough. And my hands are all covered in the wax from the wax canvas, so everything's a little slippery right now. There we go. I've got all of the corners boxed. Now, was it easier on this machine than my domestic machine? No, it was about the same. It was easier to sew leather on this machine than it would be on my domestic machine. But it was probably the same amount challenging. So now I'm going to flip this all right side out. I'm going to make sure I push out my bag tag first so I don't accidentally like rip that out unknowingly. All right, moment of truth. It's always a nerve-wracking moment because I'm not quite sure if you made a mistake somewhere or if you have a rip somewhere you didn't know. Okay, poke out all those corners. Maybe you have a corner on the top part and a corner on the bottom. So you have 4 on each side. Just like that. This is looking really cute, actually. Kind of reminds me of Christmas. The red and the green. I like it. And I love the idea of using wax canvas with leather because I feel like that's a very neutral, like a very gender neutral bag, you know? And this is what it looks like. I love this. And you know what I love? I mean, I love the look of it, but I love the look of all my little boxy bags. But this feels really professional. Holy guacamole. I'm going to poke out these corners a little bit better. Wow, 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 wow. This looks so good. Look at that. Isn't that adorable? I love these little boxy bags so much, but I especially love this leather. So I have enough green leather to make a couple more of these. I think I might. I think I'll make a few more of these because these are just adorable. Okay, last thing, let's just sew up that lining. So inside we have the hole. So you just yank our lining out of here. We have that hole that we left. So we're just gonna pull it up. And then I always push my fingers inside, push down those raw edges so they go down inside to the wrong side of the lining. All right, so now I can just top stitch along this edge at about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm not gonna change my stitch length or anything. I'm just gonna leave it. I just wanna close the hole, that's all. All right, that's all top stitched. Let's just push it back down into our boxy bag. I love boxy bags. I usually put mesh pockets on the inside of them especially for traveling with toiletries. It just makes it easier to organize everything. But even without any pockets inside, it's a great, great bag. You can use it in your sewing room. You can use it when you're traveling. Like I said, it's gender neutral. Yes, this one is a little more blingy. I love too that with the leather, we don't have to worry about making these tabs, you know, double folded. We just left the raw edges there and that looks great. This looks so great. I love this bag so much. It's so cute. So this went much better than previous sit and sews. As you guys know, I'm still learning my Juki. I'm still figuring it out. I would say I felt 100% more comfortable this time than I did last time. And that could be because I'm making something I know how to make really well. I'm not, you know, I don't really have that many questions about this bag. I know what I'm doing. It could also be because I'm getting some more practice on this. Now, I feel like I'm going in reverse because I started with harder bags and I'm going like to easier and easier things. But I think next time when we do a sit and sew on the Juki, I want to do like a really scrappy leather project. Something that, because I have a lot of very small pieces of leather and I need something to do with those. So I think I want to do like little wristlets, you know, just like a simple zip pouch, maybe a little credit card pouch, something like that. So next time we will be doing smaller projects that are scrappy, leather friendly. So thank you so much for sewing with me today. I hope that this was fun for you. I know this isn't a full tutorial, but if you are interested in that, I will have the link down in the description. If you have an industrial sewing machine, let me know what you're making on it. Let me know what you're working on, because I'm still working up to those really big professional bags. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting closer. The more and more comfortable I get, the closer I get to that. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys.